Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting. This is a regular meeting. It is Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. It is 9:23 a.m. This session is set to go until 12:15 today. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue, room 110. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell and Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. We'll start our agenda off today with the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of August 1st, 2023. So we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menser and approval of the Tuesday, August 1st, 2023 agenda. Then there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board and county managers update.
I don't have any specific updates for this afternoon, Madam Chair.
Can I ask the questions from the commissioners? No. Okay, I have a question in regards to the testimony we received on July 18th. I was like, what was the week in July? July 18th, in regards, I believe it was the area, is it the Agency on Aging, and they were requesting the space. And I'm wondering if there's gonna be kind of any follow-up on
Was
that.
that about the medical loan program?
Yeah.
The July 18th.
It was July 18th, right there. They have a lending library for medical equipment and have a need for about 1,500 square feet. And they're co-located,
They're in
the
funeral homes, and I mean, they're a great, like, I donated basically all of Gigi's stuff when she passed away, and I've heard of several people who go and use that, whenever they need medical equipment, and they're gonna lose their, the funeral home has been kind of lending them this space, is what we've heard. For years, and now basically in October, they said that, they were not gonna do it anymore, so they're gonna have to kind of shut down that operation.
I think because the business is expanding.
Yeah, something like that. Not sure what's going on there, but they are in need of space, and I'm just wondering if there's gonna be follow-up from us as a board on that, or kind of, since they did, I believe it was 2 to 3 people who came in and provided public testimony about that, and I just.
Does it need to be in a certain location?
No, not that I know of. I just know that it's volunteer run, right? So they're only open
3 hours a week.
3 hours a week, is when they accept donations and people can come pick stuff up.
Oh, so it's not just warehouse space to put the stuff, it's people coming and going and some staffing
and some
area as well.
But not much,
So they also, I think they did an invitation to like have us go view like what they do. And I've been there before, again, like, just when I had to go drop off the stuff, I viewed the space, but I don't know, I want to make sure that since they came in and provided public testimony, that at least there's something from the
I'd like to
board.
find them a space,
I did reach out to the port and ask them if they had any space, and they unfortunately do not have any available space right now that they said they could.
we've got empty office space here, a lot of empty space, classroom type stuff. I don't know if there's any available that would fit, but.
So I don't know, I just would like to be responsive and just, we're gonna look into it and see if there's something we can do, or just.
Yeah, let me go back and listen to the testimony.
Yeah.
It's wheelchairs and walkers.
I'm familiar with the.
Not that we have to give them space, I feel like, but just at least to be responsive is.
Yeah, let me go back and listen to the testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Comments?
No.
Okay. Consent items, there is 2 on the agenda. Consent item 3A from the auditor's office, approval of the voucher list.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Here review this item. This item is for you to consider approving the voucher list in the week of July 17, 2023 for $2,187,717.89. This is on your consent agenda because we don't have any expenditures related to the tenant improvements of this building.
Okay, questions, Commissioner
No
Edwards? Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No.
Okay, item 3B from the treasurer's office is to authorize the sale of tax title property via private negotiation to Dale Lucker.
You reviewed this item, Commissioners, on a couple of occasions. The first time you heard this, you asked staff to look at the possibility whether this property could be used, has any environmental value, mainly related to pocket gopher or perhaps the spotted frog.
Actually, it was stormwater that we were most focused on.
Right, and so the conversations we looked, and really is not a value to this property. This property is a 3.26 acres, and then plan to have a private sale transaction for $6,114.50. This is encumbered entirely by wetlands. So there is really not opportunity to enhance this property or perhaps to use other than just keep it in perpetuity as it exists, which is a wetlands. So this is back on your agenda for you to take final action, authorize the treasurer's office to have this private transaction to surplus this, to sell this property and put it back into the tax roll. And Jeff Cadman's here, the county treasurer, to answer any questions.
Good morning. Thank you for your time this morning. The county manager summed things up very, very well. And the wetland deal with this property is Scatter Creek floods it every year. So it's had problems the assessor's office has been aware of forever, and getting it back on the tax rolls. Gentleman that is wanting to purchase this is offering considerably more than the $1,200 minimum that he needed to, so we're happy to get this back to generating some revenue for the tax districts.
Any questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions. I do want to thank the treasurer for getting these properties back on the tax rolls. So thank you very much for your efforts.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No, I followed up with staff and had my questions answered.
Okay, no questions from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and so moving on to department items, we only have one from information technology. Item 4A, renewal of annual maintenance for Adobe software.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You also reviewed this item last week. And for your consideration is to renew for 1 year the license that we have with Adobe. And this is the Adobe software that we use, all of us use on almost on a daily basis. You may be familiar with the extension of this file, which is PDF, and we use PDF files for just about everything that we do here in the county. And this is the licensing in which will allow us to use PDF files. This is for a cost of $77,904.37, and this is already included on the current budget. So we're not asking for additional budget authority in this request. Sherry L., the IT director, is here. Have any questions?
Thank you, Sherry. Anything you'd like to add?
Just cost of doing business.
Questions,
No
Commissioner
questions,
Edwards?
thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer? Okay, no questions for me. So with that, we do have a public hearing at 3:30 from Community Planning and Economic Development, and it's the Olympia Joint Plan.
Yeah, I think this item you have reviewed on a couple of occasions. This afternoon, you will receive public testimony on the Olympia Joint Plan. And at this point, staff is only asking for you to take only a single action of Two actions, let me see. The agenda has a single action. Are you expecting to have the board consider second action to approve this?
No, just to close the public
Okay,
hearing.
because the,
Is there a mistake on the
no,
date?
no, it's all good.
Okay.
So a single action for you to close the public hearing, and the staff will organize a follow-up briefing for you to discuss the public testimony you might receive this afternoon before you take a final action.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add, Leah?
The follow-up action has been scheduled for August 24th, so we'll have a briefing that day.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Munzer?
Do we have written comments so far?
We've received 4 during the planning commission process, and we've received 1 during this, this noticing session since the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
Very little comment.
Do you know if members of the Civil Olympia might be coming this afternoon in support of this, or just
I
curious?
haven't heard that from anyone, yeah. They've provided their recommendations, so I think they're out of the process at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Leah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And that will conclude our agenda for our meeting of August 1st. Next on our agenda is the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of August 8th, 2023. Call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Approval of the Tuesday, August 8th, 2023 agenda. Then there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
I will follow up with any updates they may be as a result of today's public testimony, if need be, but nothing on the radar at this point.
Thank you. Okay, and moving on to any questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
Commissioner Munzer? Okay, moving on to consent items. There's only one, item 3A from the Sheriff's Office, Lake Lawrence Regatta application.
This is a yearly event, Commissioners, where the Sheriff's Office receives an application from the Seattle Outboard Association for an outboard hydroplane race that is held in Lake Lawrence, and this year will be on September 15th through the 17th. The Seattle Outboard Association has provided all the needed documentation. The Sheriff's Office has reviewed and have agreed that the application is complete, and the Sheriff's Office is requesting for you to approve this particular request. Lieutenant Brady is here to add additional perspective or answer any questions.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Commissioners. This should be our 3rd and final regatta, I believe, of the year. This one is, they're requesting for 3 days. The first day being Friday, where they do a lot of their practice runs. So the actual event will be Saturday and Sunday, the 16th and 17th. And I know Commissioner Edwards asks a lot, so this one I found out has been running since at least 1955.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioners?
I might add, it's been running since 1955, and I'm not aware of any problems that have come about.
Yeah, that's correct. We've never had any major issues from this group at all.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Munzer? Questions for me? Okay, thank you. Moving on to department items. Items 4A is approval of the voucher list.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your consideration. This is for you to approve the voucher list for the week of July 24, 2023, for a combined amount of $4,863,377.80. This is on your department item because we have some small expenditures related to the improvements on this building, tenant improvements.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Munzer? No questions for me. Thank you. Information technology, item 5A, renewal of annual maintenance and 300 additional dual licenses.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Similar to the last item that you reviewed on today's agenda related to the Adobe Acrobat licensing. This is related to the multi-factor authentication. And this is the a piece of software that we use when we log into county computers. This is, I believe, an essential step to secure the county computers and systems. And although it's an additional steps, all of us have a phone that will get a notice when we log into the county system. And this is a good practice to have, and we'll continue to enhance this. So this is for an additional 300 licenses, just to make sure all the county employees use this particular application. And this is at a cost of $64,782.94. This is already included on the IT budget for this year, and we're not asking for additional budget authority. Sherry?
Thank you. This is an additional 300 Duo licenses, which will probably cover the rest of the county that are not currently using Duo. And this is also the annual maintenance for the licenses we already have. So it's rolled up into one request.
Sherry, could you speak to the requirements we have for multi-factor authentication?
Absolutely. In order to keep our cybersecurity insurance through the Washington County's risk pool, we are going to be required to use some sort of multi-factor authentication throughout the county. So that is something we need to finish up before the end of the year in order to qualify to continue with that cybersecurity insurance.
And also, can you elaborate a little bit? For those who have been issued county cell phones, we use that county cell phones. For those employees who are not being issued county cell phones, there's
a UB key. So you have an option of putting it on your personal phone, which it's like your key ring when you go to open the door, right? Your key ring, that's your key to get into your building or into your computer. Or you can have a UB key, which is it's a USB device. You just stick into the computer and you just tap it to validate that you are the one logging into that computer.
And that is because some county employees may not feel comfortable using their personal phone. That is the option that we have provided.
I saw that yesterday for the first time.
The UB key.
Questions? Commissioner?
How long have we been utilizing this process?
I think they started rolling it out in early 2020 maybe. We had a pilot of the Duo for the treasurer's office. They were the first one to go completely live with it, and the auditor. And then we've been rolling it out ever since.
And this kind of protects us from the hacking.
So if somebody accesses your login ID and password today, if you don't have the Duo on your computer, they can just get in. The point of the Duo is that's the second factor in the multi-factor authentication, which you will verify that it's actually you trying to log in one way or another.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, questions? Sorry. No questions for you. Thank you. Public Health and Social Services, item 6A, amendment number 15 to the Washington State Department of Health 2022 through 2024 consolidated contract number CLH 31030.
Commissioners, and thank you, Madam Chair. This item has been in front of you. This will be the 15th time with the 15th amendment. As you may remember, back in January 1st, 2022, you approved the umbrella contract, which is the consolidated contract with the state, and which would allow us to receive money to really all the grants and the public health receives to provide the services to our residents here in Thurston County. So this is the 15th amendment, which adds $2,788,309. And this is mainly related to the allocation of Foundation of Public Health for the upcoming year. So this will become effective, became effective July 1st, 2023. So that is the umbrella in which the Foundation of Public Health funding comes for the county to distribute. There has been a couple of additions in terms of the scope of work related to this grant, which is addresses the infectious disease prevention services, the immunization, also promotion of immunizations in the county, as well as all the areas and activities that you're familiar with related to Foundation of Public Health. And again, the total cost of this new contract will take us to $16,518,262. David Bain, the Public Health Director, is here to answer any questions or add additional perspective.
Yeah, good morning. You gave a great update there. And again, the primary focus of this particular update is the FPHS grant. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
When we, every once in a while, they give us money because we're doing a good job, right? Isn't that the deal? We're doing good. Is that why they continue to supply us with resources?
In some instances, yes, but this is related to Foundation of Public Health allocation.
Okay, so I'm trying to look for a loophole. Can we use this money possibly for the coroner's office? Because all those deaths that we're having now are failures of the Foundation of Public Health, if you will. Autopsy costs, everything associated with the failure of our public health to protect those people that die. So I'm looking for a mechanism to offset the drain on the current expense budget. Is there any possibility that we could utilize money like this that comes in that we don't know about?
We know about this.
Well, yeah, but it's new. I mean, it's new, right? New money.
But you as a Board of Health has already taken some action as to how you will
And
distribute
we've
the money.
already decided how we're gonna spend
Yeah.
this new money?
Well, this new money is coming up as part of your biannual budget conversation,
Right.
but for the most part, you already have allocated on the areas. But I think you bring in a different conversation. You know, I don't want to say A or nay because that's a very interesting question. So give us some time to explore that if that is a viable option.
And it is, of all funding, it is in statute as to what you can and can't do with it.
But when it gives you a broad perspective of health, well, we didn't do a very good job on those 150 people that died. So can we work on that problem with this money? I'm just saying, let's be innovative, think out of the box and see if we can find resources elsewhere. I don't know if we can or can't. That's how I'm asking the question.
I'll follow up with David on.
Right,
We
we
can
need
explore
to know
that.
what the restrictions are from Department of Health to know how it can be used.
I mean, it's a health issue. It's a failed health issue.
Yeah, but most grants come with very specific ways you have to use them.
Good.
Whether or not this is one of them.
Yeah, maybe
We'll have
there's
to look.
something there if we take a
Sure.
look at it.
I'm happy to work with Robin and others on this one.
Yeah, there's always, if there's an opportunity for stretching.
We'll
look at
stretch
that
it as much as we
opportunity.
can.
Certainly.
Trying to save the current expense fund. Thank you, ma'am. That was it.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer? So then, I guess, just to clarify it in my head, this is just the regular funding that comes in through Foundational Public Health. So next year, around July, August, we're gonna be seeing amendment number 16.
Actually, you may probably see Amendment 16 prior to.
Okay,
So it's not just the Foundation of Public Health that comes into this fund, there's many other different funding sources that come under this contract and this umbrella, which makes it a very streamlined process. And that's what you approve the overall umbrella and allows to amendments to bring many different funding sources. So perhaps the amendment number 16 may bring a different funding source in the upcoming year.
It's possible, but it's also normal to see amendments to state contracts at this time because the state just pass their budget
So they're-
at the end of June, and it takes about a month or so for state agencies to figure out how they're gonna allocate money that they were appropriated, so it's normal to see amendments at this time.
They can come back as many times as they want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't,
They're-
I'm not
they're-
complaining.
Yeah.
Don't misinterpret this
Since
conversation.
since January 11, 2022, you approved the overall umbrella contract, we have received 16,512,000.
Okay, I was just like, you know, is it only kind of foundational public health, or is it just, I know we've seen
Many
different
funding sources.
amendments.
Right.
We were just received funding for COVID funding specifically, and so it was like, does it fall under this umbrella or does it fall under a different one?
Yeah.
So that's,
The consolidated contract is extremely complex and covers all kinds of stuff.
so it's just any kind of funding, additional funding, okay, that's good to know.
David, a question then relative to the foundational public health services funding. Has the concurrence process per statute occurred that covers the entirety of the biennial budget for the state, or just 1 year at a time?
This year was complicated, but yes, the concurrence process is concluded for the biennium. There's some strange pieces this year that'll impact us per se that involve some money that DOH got specific away from the locals that folks are trying to kind of figure out how to spend that funding. But for the rest of us, local health jurisdictions, this is what we'll get. So that part of the process is over.
Can you remind everyone what the concurrence process is? Because I went to the training and I barely remember. These guys might not have ever even heard about it.
I'll leave that one to David.
I was gonna see if our assistant county manager could do it.
Well, it is one of those, when the legislature, first defined what foundational public health services is, and then second, when they make the appropriations, they per statute created a mechanism by which representation from the local public health districts would come together and agree to sort of how the appropriation would be allocated to all of the local public health districts, and that they called the concurrence process. So
Like
that's
how
my
much?
high level.
How much or for what purposes?
How much? What purposes is also defined per statute, but the how much is the concurrence process, and then to what it goes towards is a local decision based on the bookends that are allowed by statute.
And that's where we had, David, I'm asking you, that's where we had like our 11 buckets.
That's right. So those buckets were defined really by the Foundational Public Health Steering Committee, which is composed of members of the state, local health, the tribes, and the State Board of Health. And that group every year gets the opportunity to kind of re-examine those different targets and make some adjustments, those categories. And they also sort of describe where the money flows to. And again, the idea of concurrence literally means that every part of the public health system has to concur and agree. So it can't just be the state. It's got to have the local buy-in, the tribal buy-in, and also the State Board of Health buy-in. And as a fun side note for you guys, I actually just joined the FPHS steering committee, so I get to be part of the decision-making process for the next round of funding.
Very good.
And this 2.7 that we've coming in here, that's related to Foundation Public Health, the Board of Health will get some input from our fiscal subcommittee. Is that the money we're talking about that they'll be chewing on?
Yeah, and I think Romero said this really well. Most of that money is spoken for. The board has previously allocated a lot of this money on an ongoing basis. So then you're really dealing with sort of some of the, when you get rid of the one-time funds you spent, it's sort of what's left over at that point. And so, yeah, that's part of the conversation with the fiscal subcommittee and also with you as the Board of Commissioners, as we kind of demonstrate to you how we want to spend those funds. What's different this year than in previous years for you all is I'm making our foundational public health ask as part of our routine budget ask. So you're not going to get a separate request in the middle of the year for this. It's going to be part of our normal ask. So you'll see, based on input from, the community, input from the, BOH subcommittees, you'll see how we are recommending to spend some of the new funding that we've got.
But also there is a modest increase of foundational public health allocation this year in comparison to last year.
Correct. But I will note that those increases, this is not bad, but just to be clear, those increases are very targeted. So they'll add increases specifically for a new position or a new project versus expanding the more open-ended category.
Category 1.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
The reason I ask about this whole fentanyl issue and the deaths and how it's connected, I don't know that this is the right correlation to use, but some years back, AIDS became a big problem to our society. And we put a lot of resources into that. A few years back, we were not having anywhere near the number of deaths that we're having today having to do with fentanyl. In 2022, I believe the coroner said that we had about 150 fentanyl-related deaths. Maybe some of those had some other derivative of opioid in there. But that was the big driver. So we talk about we're gonna fix a lot of things, but we haven't really made a push towards solving this fentanyl problem that is causing real damages, real deaths. I have no idea where we're at 6 months into 2023, but I'm sure it's quite high. So I'm trying to look for ways that we can address a problem rather than just talking about it. Let's see if we can figure out something here. And I use AIDS as an example because society made a big push to try and correct something there, and they've done pretty well. So why can't we make that same push with this foundational public health money that's coming in, especially if it's new money that's coming in that we maybe have not really targeted to a specific problem? Because I'm kind of done talking about problems, and I would like to get something really moving in a direction that is solving problems. And 150 people that died because of this problem, I think that's a real problem. I mean, it was a big problem, with AIDS, and we addressed it. Why aren't we addressing this? So I'm looking for any way that we can maybe make a push to solve this issue in our community. And if we get it figured out, maybe the others will follow along. I don't know.
Yeah, Commissioner, I completely agree about the need for action versus talking. I think one of the things I'll note is there is a really small amount of funding in this new FPHS round specific to opioids prevention with pregnant moms. Actually, it's a new kind of grouping for us. But mostly when I think about the opioid crisis, to be honest, I'm thinking about our opioid settlement funding as funding that I think is specifically targeted to this problem you're talking about. And the board did pass at your last board meeting an interlocal agreement to set up sort of a structure whereby the county and the cities can come up with a governance structure to spend and make recommendations on how to spend funding for this area. I know that my staff and I will be closely connected to this work as well. I'm working with the county manager and the assistant county manager to figure out how this thing can really look. But to me, this is where the action hits right here, is that opioid funding. And it won't be as much money as we want it to be at first, but I think it'll get us a long way. It'll also really rope in a lot of hard work that the opioid task force has been doing the last couple of years. So you guys aren't starting from scratch with this funding either. So I just wanted to point out that that's an area that I have a lot of passion for, but I think that the opioid crisis, the opioid settlement funding is going to be really our best avenue for this fight against fentanyl. And I'll let others sort of jump in if I'm misspeaking there, County Manager or Robin.
No, I think right on point. We're just waiting for the other jurisdictions to approve the local agreement, and then we'll move and having the conversation as to how the structure should be set, the governance structure, and then we really need to come down and start talking about how the money should be distributed to address specifically the fentanyl crisis. That is the purpose of the intent, of the settlement money anyways. And more money is coming. Because as I'd like to remind the board, the settlement that we have right now is only the distributors. And the lawsuit that is coming up maybe will be related to the producers. And that may be bringing the additional revenue. So there is a great opportunity to address Commissioner Edwards' perspective.
Commissioner Munster, you had a question.
Well, I really heard two different things from Commissioner Edwards. At first, you were talking about reducing the pressure on the current expense fund by dealing with the coroner issue, kind of the aftermath. And now you're talking about getting ahead of the problem and trying to actually attack the fentanyl thing. And those are two different goals.
Well, right, but
with this one stream of money.
I just want to address the problem rather than just talk about the problem. That's kind of, it frustrates me that we as a society seem to spend a lot of time talking about things. The opioid settlement came from commercial application of that problem into our community with a lot of people making money and litigation that finally brought that about. But with the fentanyl problem, I mean, it's 10 times what the opioid problem was, and we need to get ahead of that. So yes, I want to address the effect of fentanyl, which is the coroner's office is overwhelmed. So I want to address that, but I want to also address a way to utilize funds coming in so we're not using our current expense budget all the time to address these new issues that pop up. That's all. I want to get the whole thing. I mean, that's what I'm looking for, is a solution to the whole thing. And if we have new money coming in, let's prioritize 150 deaths. That's just from 2022. I don't know where we're at. Matter of fact, I'd like to have you brief us on 6 months down the road, how many deaths have we got this year for 2023? I'm talking about old news.
Yeah, happy to. I'll work with the coroner's office to get the latest data.
And he won't be able to tell you a lot of those because we send in toxicology and we don't get that back for 3-4 months sometimes.
Yep.
So just even suspected, throw that in there because it ends up being mostly that's what it is.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are we ready to go on to item 6B? Yeah, okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you. Item 6B, set a public hearing date regarding amendments to the Nisqually Shellfish Protection District Work Program and fixing rates and charges in the district.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, this is a twofold. This item, as a Board of County Commissioners, you will hear it, and then you will have an item on your Board of Health agenda, and those are two related. This particular item is for you to set a public hearing for September 5th, 2023. As a matter of background, the Nisqually Reach Shellfish Protection District was created back in 2001. And work was established to improve water quality in this area. In February 14, 2012, a portion of the district was designated as the Nisqually Reach Watershed Protection Area, with additional requirements for operations and maintenance on the on-site septic systems. And Thurston County Board of County Commissioners passed ordinances to start setting the rates for 10 years in order to address this matter. You received some feedback in the last couple of years, even recently, as to how effective this has been. The water quality on the Nisqually Reach has improved, but yet additional work needs to be done. So this action for you is to set the public hearing for September 5th, 2023 at 3:30 in the afternoon to consider increasing the rates by 3.5%. And that is a part with inflation that we have seen. When you review the agenda for the Board of Health, you also see an item to set the public hearing in front of the Board of Health to amend the sanitary code, and that is the purview of the Board of Health itself. So just want to give you a perspective. There's 2 items related to this particular topic. Any questions? And Jen is here to answer any questions. Sorry.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Jane, we've come a long ways within this designated geographical area about fixing the problem, right? Since we started on this?
Yes, we've we've had good success in improving the water quality. All of the stations that the State Department of Health monitors, which are marine stations, are currently meeting the standards. There are some areas that are still closed to shellfish because of other reasons beyond the water, the bacteria levels. So we're working on those areas. What we've seen in other counties is when they've had shellfish protection districts, got the water cleaned up and stopped having the shellfish districts, the water quality took a U-turn and started to decline again. So we didn't want to have that happen here.
And so part of what we're gonna be doing here is extending this district or extending the time frame. I don't know what it was before. Was it 10 years or something?
10 years.
Okay, so
Right.
we're running up against the end and we don't want to end up in a situation where it expires and then that exact scenario develops to where we lose water quality because we're not doing the right thing. Okay, so where I'm going with this, when we started the program, have we adjusted the rates since we started the program?
The rates have an automatic cost of living it increase if there's a cost of living that's up to a maximum of 3.5% or the CPI, whichever is lower. So in this case, the rates are based on this year's rates plus the 3.5 cost of living, which is lower than the actual CPI.
But during that 10-year period, we didn't have rates increasing as much as what we're looking at now. Is that right? I mean, the cost of living was less.
Well, different each year it was set. So some years there was no cost of living. Some
Right.
years there was 3.5. Some years there was something in between. So each year that was the rates were reset.
On this particular adjustment, have we addressed all the septic issues, you know, and I guess I'm gonna say trailer parks is where we found there was a real problem. Is that in this district or did we do that for another district where we changed the rates because we found out that you could have 100 trailer parks on your property or 100 trailers with individual systems and they were getting a hell of a deal and not really contributing their full amount to solve this problem. We fixed that problem. What district was that? The Henderson Watershed District?
That was Henderson, and we learned Henderson started before Nisqually. So when Nisqually was originally set up, we dealt with that issue then. So Nisqually has always had that additional cost for the individual septics on a parcel. So we fixed it in Henderson to match Nisqually. So now they are going forward with the same.
So that's been fixed.
Yes.
And this is what you're gonna go for a 3%,
3.5,
3.5% CPI?
yeah, this year, from 2023 to 2020.
But over the last 10 years, I bet you we haven't even come close to matching the cost of doing business. That's just in the last 2 years, I think it's up about 12 or 13%. You know, the ability of what resources we pump into it, the buying power of those dollars. And I'm looking for one other thing, and that's that campground out towards, yeah, you must know the name of it.
Yeah, the Pleasant Forest Camping Club.
Yeah, is that one in this district or the Henderson district?
It's in Henderson. Yeah.
So it's moot point. Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
The agenda item makes reference to Nisqually, and then in the action, there's reference to Henderson. So what does Henderson have to do with what's going on here?
Yeah, great question. There's two separate districts, Henderson and Nisqually, shellfish protection districts.
Right.
At some point in the past, they had separate work plans, but they were basically very similar. So there was a motion, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, 8 years ago, I don't know when, to combine their work plans. So it's a combined Henderson Nisqually work plan. And that is one of the things we're updating as part of the renewal of the processes, the Henderson Nisqually work plan to improve water quality.
Okay, that's my only question, thank you.
Ma'am, I do have a follow-up. On those rates, we're gonna have everything kind of going the same, right? I mean, we're gonna treat everybody the same in the two different districts?
The rates right now are separate for Henderson and for Nisqually. One of the things we had talked about was, would it make sense at some point to actually, instead of having two separate districts, two separate sets of rates, and um, most of the rest of it is the same, to combine them into one district. We felt like that was a big enough change that it was too ambitious for this year to get done, because we want to make sure that, again, that the Nisqually sunsets December 31st. So we are thinking, that we may come back to you with a little more thought out detail about some options, including things like combining the districts or looking more holistically at options for shellfish protection districts in the county.
How are we doing on that inspect your own system education process? I mean, it's been, I think, real successful that we've had a lot of people coming in. Are we having to turn anybody away from any of those classes?
Well, we just, with the board's approval, have expanded that program. It used to just be for the shellfish protection districts, and we're able to now use the foundational public health funding to make that county-wide. So we've actually been increasing the number of classes in the last few months since that's taken effect. So we're running 2 classes a month, and they're pretty much filled up each time. And so we're able to offer this county-wide and make it available to everybody instead of just geographically based.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't have questions, Jane. Thank you. Okay. And then that will conclude our regular agenda. We do have a Board of Health at 4:30. Next is the review of the Board of Health draft agenda for the meeting of August 8th, and I will pass it to the Chair of Board of Health.
Okay. Board of Health meeting, we called to order at 4:30. And we will look at approving the agenda and have an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. We have 2 proclamations for this meeting. One is National Breastfeeding Month proclamation, and the second is National Immunization Awareness Month proclamation. I believe both of these connect to national days that recognize these 2 particular topics. So Jamie, do we have, it'll be Gretchen Toller, I understand, for one of those?
Yeah, I haven't confirmed who we have attending for yet, who I have attending for the immunization one. They both were brought forward by PHSS. Typically it's Gretchen's group, so I will double check with her to see if she has someone attending for both of them, or who they would like to attend for the immunization one.
Pipe in, David, if you have anything to add on any of this. Any questions from board?
No, that was, I want to hear the answer to your question, basically.
Okay, couple of, actually, let's see, we have a presentation then. Item 5A is National Suicide Hotline Update. David, why don't you let us know what this is gonna cover, just high level?
Yeah, I think as most of you know, there was an introduction of 988 hotline. And I think this is an opportunity for the behavioral health organization for the county to provide an update on how things have gone. I think it's been a year now since they launched. So this is a chance for the BOH to get update on that.
questions?
Is that the 811 system? That's,
988.
or 98988, okay.
And
Yes, sir.
Joe Avalos, I believe, is coming to give the Board of Health kind of what we've already heard probably at the BHASO meetings, but it's evolving in the current state of the situation. Any other questions?
Well, not on that, will I have an opportunity to ask about my fentanyl thing? I just want.
Sure. Yeah, we'll get there.
Later.
Okay. Yep, let's just get through these. Okay, so 6A, is that back on or is this being removed?
No, this one's being removed. I was just saving paper on this one because I did get confirmation yesterday. They are working in conjunction with, emergency services to do this, presentation. Emergency services isn't quite there yet, so we're gonna bump this one to the September meeting.
Okay, so 6A will be stricken from the agenda that will be,
Yeah, I have the final copy updated.
perfect. So then 7 will probably become 6 at that point, and we'll have this item set, which is now 7A on the draft agenda, setting a public hearing regarding sanitary code amendments to renew designation of Nisqually Watershed Protection Area as a marine recovery area and area of special concern. And this just connects to what we just covered. The BoCC side. Jane, David, anything to add there?
This is the part that amends the sanitary code. So in addition to declaring Nisqually Reach a marine recovery area, there's a few other little changes that we are suggesting making. One of which is to add a requirement in marine recovery areas that minor repairs which do not require a permit, that we would request, or that we would require that they be reported upon, so that we have an opportunity to follow up or to ensure that the fix really took care of the problem. It also gives us feedback to allow us that proactive of, oh, here's a weak spot in the system because we're seeing a lot of repairs needed for this. What can we do to prevent that in the future? The other one was to, for the folks who are self-inspectors, to add a requirement that once in every 9 years that a professional do an inspection of the system. And we felt like that was a good idea for a little bit more oversight by somebody who's really more highly trained, without adding a lot of extra cost to the homeowner, because most systems will require pumping within 9 years. So they already have to have somebody out at that point. So that was something we wanted to add. And then there were a few technical corrections because we refer to the codes for planning for the critical areas, and the number has changed. So just updating some of that.
Questions for Jane?
Yeah. We're having a public hearing from the Board of County Commissioners on the 5th on something similar, but not yet the same, is that it? And that's why we're gonna do this on the following week?
Yeah, because.
Yeah, it requires both Board of Health and Board of Commissioners actions to renew. So
Board of County Commission sets the fees, monetary, and the Board of Health amends the sanitary code. So, and the order has to be on that order. The Board of County Commissioners needs to take an action first, and the Board of Health needs to follow.
Okay.
Okay. And then will we get, like, will there be like, maybe in advance of the public hearing or whatnot, like a red line version or some, where we can actually see the exact language that's being proposed to the code? How's that gonna happen? Or when are we gonna see that? In what form?
yes, we have that already. So that was in the packet. I'll make sure that gets set to you.
Thank you.
Yep. On those areas, you said something about a professional after 9 years, what are you anticipating a professional is? Is it a pumper with a license? Is it an employee from the health department? What are you recommending there?
It would be any certified septic professional. So it could be a pumper, could be a certified monitoring specialist, could be an installer, and anyone who is certified to inspect that type of system. We're not anticipating that it would be staff. We do try to do about a 10% quality assurance check, but we would not have the capacity to get out, look at everybody's system.
Okay, and that applies only to those that have been doing the self-inspection?
Well, yes, because the folks, everyone in the marine recovery areas is required to have an inspection every either 1 year or 3 year, depending on their system.
Yeah.
So it's either already being done by a certified professional, septic professional, or we certify people to self-inspect. So if you're certified to self-inspect, every so often we'd like you to have a certified professional also do the inspection. So sometime within a 9 year period. It doesn't have to be at the 9 year mark because we recognize that depending on use, systems need to be pumped at different times. So the thought is that whenever you're getting it pumped, that pumper can do, or whomever you have called out can do the inspection at that time.
And what's the cost gonna be to the public for this 9-year review, I guess? What's the anticipated cost that they are not paying for today?
Right. We anticipate minimal additional cost because, again, assuming that most systems will need to be pumped within that period of time. So different septic companies have their fees set up different ways, but for many, if you're already out doing a pumping, the cost of an inspection is not an added cost. For some, it may be an added cost, but again, different companies have their own method of doing that.
And have you got something developed, like a justification, I guess is the best way I could put it, that we need to make this change because we've had X number of failures of people that have been inspecting their own system all along. And now all of a sudden we've discovered that 1% of those folks or 25% are having failures that are going to bring about this new scrutiny, the need for this new scrutiny?
I don't at this time have hard data like that. I could, ask to go back and look for that. I would say that what we do have is staff looking over those inspections, and most people do a fine job. There's sometimes, as time goes on, because we don't at this time require people to do a refresher. So if you took the class, I don't know, 15 years ago, and you're only inspecting once every 3 years, sometimes people have questions and they call, or sometimes we get results that need following up because they don't make sense. And then, of course, there are a few, and I don't have hard numbers, where again you're looking at the figures and you're thinking, this seems a little iffy, and we'd like to have somebody have a look at it. Again, our thought was this was an added level of assurance without added burden to the homeowner, because again, most systems need to be done every 3 to 5 years. We expanded it out to 9 years, thinking that again, the vast majority of systems would need to be pumped in that time anyway.
I guess, I don't know, one of my concerns before my time on the board, it was during, I think, the Henderson or maybe the Nisqually watershed, putting that program together. I think somehow there were some numbers that weren't right. I just recall 14%. There'd been a allegation that there'd been 14% failures in systems, and that was kind of why we needed to do some of this. But in reality, when we really dug into the numbers, or maybe a citizen dug into the numbers, it ended up being more like 2%. I really don't have those numbers on the tip of my tongue. But what I'm looking for is specific justification to justify bumping everything up. And so that's why I think the citizenry is kind of entitled to know why, not just speculation that we might have a problem, but there's really a problem here. It's 2% of these self-inspection systems are now starting to fail, or 10%. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's a legitimate question. Referring back to when we put this process in place, we had a lot of public input about why are we doing this? And so I think we need to show why we're doing it, if we're doing it, if we decide to do it. A public hearing might bring about, well, we really don't have any statistical information to justify this, and then it'll be up to the Board of Health, the Board of County Commissioners to make that decision. At that point, is it really a justifiable increase in placing another burden on the taxpayers? I'm thinking about that person that's on a fixed income, living out there, and now new costs. We are always adding new costs. I'm not against the upgrade of the need if we can show that there is a need. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on that.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you about what I'm asking there?
Yeah, so you'd like to see a little bit more data on what leads us to this concern.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Robin, did you have something?
I just had a question about, what's the difference between systems that require an operational certificate and those that do not? Because if I'm reading this correctly, it's only those that require this certificate that would need the certification every 9 years. So as someone that lives in this watershed, I guess I'm asking, you know, I have just a typical neighborhood septic. Do I require an operating certificate, or will I still be under the rules where my husband, who took the class, can do the inspection every 3 years?
Right. Within the marine recovery areas, or every septic system requires an operational certificate. And people like your husband can be certified to self-inspect, and they would still be allowed to do that. This piece would add, once within a 9-year period, we would like to have an inspection by a certified professional. So if you have a 3-year operational certificate, which is, if yours is like a standard gravity or pressure system, you probably have at least one time we would like, within that 9-year period, a professional to have done that.
So it's everybody within the watersheds?
Everyone within, what's a little confusing with the language is the marine recovery area is a portion of the Shellfish Protection District, and the Shellfish Protection District is a portion of the actual watershed. So, it's that smaller one, the Watershed Protection District, or the Marine Recovery Area, that every system requires an operational certificate. And then within the whole county, that's about between 25 to between a quarter to a third of the systems countywide require an operational certificate.
So do you know approximately how many households or how many systems would be impacted?
My off the cuff memory of how many people we have certified to be self-inspectors is on the neighborhood of a several thousand, maybe 2.5, 3,000.
No, but it sounds like only a subset of that would be subject to this new rule in the
Right,
marine areas. So
right.
that's what I'm
Be,
curious.
because the other people are already having professional inspections done.
No,
As,
because you just said that the marine area is a subset
oh, yeah.
of the shellfish protection area,
Mhm.
right? So how many households or how many systems would now need this? Are we talking 30? Are we talking 200?
Right.
3,000?
Hold on just a second. I can get you the numbers.
Ballpark.
Within within the shellfish protection districts or the marine recovery areas, we have a total of about 10,000 people who require um, operational certificates. Again, every system within that geographic boundary.
All right.
And so out of those, they all require some kind of an inspection. We provided the option of having, for certain systems that aren't too complex, to have a self-inspection, become certified to self-inspect. So some people have taken us up on that offer, others have never done that and have always
Sure.
had professional inspections.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's maybe a quarter of the 10,000 that would be affected because they're doing self-inspection.
Right. It's still a few thousand people.
Sure. Jane, out of those, I guess my concern is, how many failures have you had brought to your attention that were brought about because of a lack of, I don't know, knowledge by the inspector or someone? You must have some reason to put this additional burden on the public. And I'm wondering what you're using as a reason. You mentioned some speculation that this would be good because most systems might need to be pumped after 9 years, but have we got any examples of, well, 10%, 1%, I don't know what it is, have been brought to our attention that it isn't working for the homeowner to have the self-inspection license that we've offered through our educational program. So I'm looking for a justification in new regulatory oversight and cost. And if we don't have that, if I can't go out and say, well, yeah, 5% of these folks, it just isn't working, so we need to do something different, or 1%. And I'm going back to that 14% because when we finally analyzed that and got it down there, it was under 1%. So, and I'm not saying there isn't a need, but I need to have some real knowledge, not speculative knowledge about what may or may not be. So do you see the importance of that we're kind of looking for here, or at least I'm looking for?
Yeah, I could work on getting those numbers. I don't have those in front of me.
Okay, more to come on that.
Okay,
I
thank you.
think Jane understands exactly what you're asking, so that's good. Good on this topic? Thank you. Before I go to health officer's report and adjournment, Commissioner Edwards, you had anything you wanted to bring up for Board of Health consideration?
Well, I was just wondering if maybe David couldn't be in our staff couldn't be in communication with the coroner's office, so we get just a rough report. We haven't had anything for a while, nothing about the 23 numbers. Everything we've talked about has been 22. I know King County is going crazy up there with the deaths that they're experiencing on fentanyl, and we're a subset of that larger community for sure. So could you brief in part of your report or
Yep.
Maybe let the new Board of Health know how we're faring on all that.
Yep. I'm happy to work with his office and with the state to sort of see where we're at this point. And you're right, Commissioner. It's tricky getting updated numbers because of the lag in a couple of parts of the process. But happy to give you what we have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay, so then let's go to proclamations and awards and advisory boards and commissions.
Good morning, Jamie Caldwell, clerk of the board. For proclamations and awards, outside of what's already been reviewed, I have no updates. For boards and commissions, included in your packet for review is an appointment application for the Agritourism Advisory Committee, 2 reappointment applications for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and 1 reappointment application for the Timberland Regional Library Board of Trustees. The last one there is quite an early request, as the current seated member's term isn't set to expire until December 31st. All have been reviewed and are being recommended for appointment, reappointment as requested. I also do have a couple applications out to staff contacts for the Racial Equity Council and the Fair Board, and I'm hoping to have appointment recommendations from each to present in the near future. Outside of any questions, that's all I have.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer? Okay, our,
Chair.
go ahead.
Related to the Timberland Regional Library, as you can probably see, Ms. Mary Beth Harrington is requesting a reappointment from Thurston County, and that appointment needs to be agreed by the other counties within the region. You have received significant public testimony, written testimony in your inbox related to the appointment from Lewis County to the Timberland Regional Library. And some of the comments have been very pointed for you to take an action to withdraw that support. And that is very difficult to do because that is an appointment by Lewis County. And the Board of County Commissioners in Thurston County just reaffirmed that appointment. Similar to this, you will appoint, may consider reappointment of Ms. Mary Beth Harrington, and the rest of the counties will have to affirm that appointment. So I just want to highlight for the members of the public who have received that significant public testimony. Unfortunately, my recommendation is to do nothing. There's really not much you can do as a Board of County Commissioners from an appointment that has been done by Lewis County Board of County Commissioners.
Who is Lewis County complaining?
No, members of the public.
Our constituents are not happy that
Yeah,
we,
you have received
Lewis
significant
County
written
appointment.
testimony in your inbox.
wasn't that long ago we appointed her, was she just filling out like an unexpired term? And now, how long are these terms?
There's 7-year terms for this particular Board of Trustees, and hers isn't set to expire until December 31st. So it's entirely possible between now and the end of the year, there could be another application submitted for that seat. Obviously, completely up to you if you want to, extend her term as requested.
Okay, well, I mean, there's no reason to do that yet, but she was just filling out the last 2 years of a term, I assume.
I believe so. I can double check on that and confirm for you by next week.
And yeah, and what on that issue that the public was commenting on, I saw in the newspaper that the executive director of the library sort of rejected the request of that. I'm hoping that issue might be
Hopefully.
resolved because of the actions that have been taken by the leadership. So,
I agree. So that's my recommendation at this point for the board is really to do nothing.
Cheryl
related to
Hayward
the-
basically said the thing that was getting people upset, the proposal to create some kind of rating system on materials in the library, the director said, we're not doing that, so kind of shut it down.
Okay.
So I don't know how much traction it actually had among the board. But there was reported in the paper that was not gonna be moving forward. So, so we good? Is that all we had? Sorry.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Okay, well, are commissioners ready to move forward on the SWAC reappointments? That's Joseph Richardson and Greg Schombacher. And these are 2 reappointments.
I'm good with it.
Or do you need time?
Well, I just, I'm not sure, I might have missed when Jamie was talking, are these, do we need to hold them open for other applicants? Are they coming up immediately for
Which ones
expiration
in
or?
particular?
We're talking about the SWAC.
I believe one of them has already expired and then one of them is coming up to expire. Pardon me, I can double check the dates on that. I believe that Greg Schoenbachler's one is the appointment that has expired currently, and then Joseph Richardson's is coming up for expiration.
And is this one where Yelm makes the, okay, so it's a similar deal. Okay, well, I'm fine with that. And then Mr. Schoenbacher, would that be the Board of County Commissioners that would decide who to place in the ag? And we don't have any other applicants?
No, not at this time.
Did you say we don't have any other applicants?
None at this time.
Okay. I'm good with everything.
Are you?
We can wait if you'd like. Just since they're there.
Well, I know Mr. Schoenbachler, so I don't, it's not like I need to research his background, and if there's no other applicants and it's coming up for expiration, I guess, and if you guys are okay, I
Might
guess.
as well do it.
All right.
Over with.
Will we go with the agritourism one as well to add that one too?
That's an empty seat, right?
That one, when I checked, to verify whether or not they had a full roster, I was informed that somebody had just recently stepped back, but they hadn't informed me yet. So we do have an open seat for that one.
And that's what you've noted here,
Yeah, mhm,
seat 7.
yes.
Yeah, I'm good with that one.
Well, I'm very good with that one, but if no one even really knew it was open, maybe we should give folks,
Yeah,
the
I can
public a
hold on that.
chance for anyone else to apply, just for a short period of time.
Yeah, I'll let them know.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go ahead and take a break. Oh, let's do PIO check and then we'll take a break.
Commissioners, Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I don't have any specific updates today, but I will be between now and the end of the year, be working on multiple policies and procedures that I'll be bringing forward to you, and also updating the BoCC's continuity of operations plan. So those are, excuse me, forthcoming. Pending any questions, that's what I have for you.
Thank you. Okay. So 10:40, let's go ahead and take a break until 11.
Thank you.
And we are back. It is 11:04. We left off with briefing public hearing decisions pending. There is nothing there. So we'll go on with commissioner items. The first item is the Habitat Conservation Plan update.
Mr. Cummings.
Kick it off?
Yep.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. I am Joshua Cummings, the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. This is your monthly update on the Habitat Conservation Program Review Update. So as the Commissioners have requested a check-in every month to see how many applications have been brought in for folks using the Habitat Conservation Program and how many have been approved. As to date, starting January 1st up to now, we have received 83 applications, and we have cleared the review for 77 of those. 6 are still in process. And when I say cleared, there's a combination of issuing a certificate of inclusion, which means that they are building on known habitat. And of those, we have the fee paid of those for 22. We have also been able to avoid or exclude 19 of these applications, which means that either they didn't have to pay any money for the mitigation because they were able to build on some soil outside of the habitat within their property, or it met one of the other criteria for exclusion. And then we have 36 that are pending payment. And once they do the payment, that's when they receive their certificate of inclusion at the same time as they receive their building permits. So the big numbers, 83 applied for, 77 cleared, 6 pending. The other question that was asked the last time I provided an update was how much land has actually been mitigated for. The number that we have to date is 6.9 acres. So of that, 77 of the reviews that have been completed, it has impacted about 6.9 acres. So just like the Board of County Commissioners requested way back in 2018, please make this work for the mom and pops. We have been little piecemeal here and there for the acreage on these single-family residents. I will say that we have our first big development kind of coming through the pipeline right now. It's called Manor House. I don't have the acreage on that at this moment, but that will shoot that 6.9 acres way up, and I'll have that information when it becomes available. So 83 applied for, 77 done, 6 in process. Commissioner.
Out of this 83, how many, like, where do the folks that were held up fit into that? Are they counted as part of the, or you're saying new applications is 83?
No, this is everybody. This is anybody that was held up over the past 10 years.
That includes the quote-unquote backlog?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. That was that big email that we sent out to folks that said, we're open for business now. We've got the codes and ordinances approved and the process in place.
And then people that had been held up could then come back in.
Correct.
At that point.
Yep. Now there's a path forward. They're unstuck.
Sounds pretty good.
You mentioned you have 36 that you're waiting payment on. A range of payments, or that's the sole thing that's holding them up from the permit process and getting okayed? Is that what that is? And they just don't have the money, they
No,
decided not
it's
to?
just part of the process. There's a gap in between where we've approved, just like any other permit. They just haven't come in for any reason yet. There's no holdup, it's just part of the standard
What's
process.
the range of payments been? What are we getting like $10,000 on somebody that wants to build right in the middle of whatever, and only 2,000 from somebody that's trying to mitigate and puts it over in the corner? Or?
I have anecdotal experience, but let me get the information so I give you a data-driven number on the range.
Okay.
It's a couple hundred to a couple thousand.
Okay, thank you. Wait, I might point out to the public, it's way more than the 40,000.
Way less.
Originally.
Way less.
anticipated.
Way less.
Yeah, I mean, way less, yes. Excuse me. Way better, I guess I meant to say, than the 40,000. Yeah.
So how are we when it comes right to, I'm looking at the map with all the sections of land and all the different areas that we had to get. Is there a specific area in the map where, people are coming more for, that we're gonna be in the market sooner for more, land? is an area that it's coming slower than what we thought.
So all those projections that we have written into the Habitat Conservation Plan, per where we believe development is going to happen, are coming true. The OPG area, which is closer to the cities of Tumwater and Olympia, the Olympia Pocket Gopher, that area we're seeing more of those applications coming in from that area. So just like we had planned for, it is starting that way. But let me get more information on how the actual data is coming in.
Okay, and then OPG was one of the hardest areas for us to even purchase mitigation land. It's been a struggle, right, just because of the availability of it. And so with us having to kind of reach that hard threshold already and having that demand from that specific threshold, I mean, are we already on the market for more OPG land? What is that?
We are, so that's the other side of the house in the community planning group, continuing to look for land acquisition opportunities, including OPG. But the answer to your question is yes. If there's folks out there that are in that service area that have 50-acre tracts or above, we have contracted with Kidder Matthews as our realtor to help with the process of acquiring that land. Thank you for that.
Okay. Any additional questions?
I have a quick separate topic, if I may. Thank you for joining at the Thurston County Fair this year, 2023.
You got the numbers?
I have a couple of preliminary numbers.
Not all of them.
And I thought I'd share a couple of them. So in comparison to last year, 2022, we know that going back, 2019 was a hot, smoky year. 2020 was the COVID. 2021 was the second round of COVID. 2022 was really hot. And so we had suppressed attendance. As I've talked about in the past, the fair is kind of a Goldilocks event. Can't be too hot, can't be too cold, can't be too rainy, can't be too smoky, can't have something else going on. And so this year, we actually had a really, I think, positive experience in terms of all the Goldilocks, and it lined up. So success for a fair event, what we found in the actual people coming in with tickets is anything over 20,000 attendees. Last year, we had 15,000 attendees. That was a tough year, a suppressed year. This year, in 2023, we had registered 20,648 attendees. Total plates of pancakes served last year, 256. This year, the TPS report is 327. And so remember, that's 2 pancakes per plate, so double that, 327. And we'll get more numbers on the youth market sale and the overall revenue as they come in.
How many did we make, Ramiro? That's
We
654.
made 50% of those.
I guess we won't count the burnt
That was the
pancakes.
0.001%, they were a little bit overdone.
So appreciate the support. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
The pancakes made in the kitchen were perfection.
I know, the kitchen ones were coming out with Mickey Mouse pancakes there for a little bit. It's just.
Josh made a Thurston
Obviously,
County
they didn't
shaped,
feel the pressure facing outside.
Josh made a Thurston County shaped pancake
Oh, he did.
with the shellfish protection districts identified.
You know, speaking of which, I'm looking into Etsy to if I can get me a little, this cookie
Form,
cutter, so I can
county shaped
Create a
only
pancake
shape,
form.
so we can make a couple next year. Thank you for the idea, Commissioner.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the next item, connectivity project to TCSO Tumwater location.
Thank you, Commissioners. This has been from the conversation, the Chair's office has a location, as you know, in the Tumwater area, where you have the field operations side of the Chair's office. As part of the overall remodel that we have in place at the courthouse, there's still going to be an opportunity to move some additional members of the field operations to the Tumwater location, and also move the evidence room to this location as well. The genesis behind this is we have already been in contact with the owner of this building. And the owner of this building is willing to go through the process and do the tenant improvements needed, and that will be built into the monthly lease. And I think that's the strategy, because at this point, the county really doesn't have that initial investment. With the overall context, we've seen the connectivity on the field operations is lacking. We have tried a couple of options. We have an antenna the DOT owns, and that's how we get access to that, but still it's not meeting the demands of the sheriff's office, particularly right now when they try to upload body cam footage into the system. So we're looking into a couple of options. Sherry's gonna give you a perspective what something we're gonna be testing here shortly, midterm, perhaps the long term. And the long term continues to be something that hardline, what I call a fiber optic to actually bring some predictability as to how the sheriff's office can conduct business, and that has a cost. And the cost, again, the property owner is willing to go through this process, bring the line, and also they will add that cost into the lease. That's how the conversation has begun. So I just want to bring you up to speed on this, and I know that perhaps there may be other conversations with the sheriff's office. I myself had a conversation with the sheriff. That perhaps if the public safety tax passes, it creates an opportunity for the sheriff or the Board of County Commissioners to look some of the funding of the public safety tax, to look in the long term a more consolidated permanent location for the sheriff's office as a whole. That can probably be part of the future conversation if the public safety passes. But in reality, if that becomes a possibility for the board and the sheriff's office down the road with public safety tax, there is time involved, because there is not, a facility cannot be constructed in a year, and a facility cannot be constructed in 2 years. So we're looking probably a period of 5 to 6 years. So what we are gonna be hearing today is really what are we going to provide the sheriff's office for the next 5 years. And then they will create an opportunity to look for a more permanent position or another option if the public safety tax doesn't pass. And I believe the lease with the property owner that we have envisioned at this point, they will add the tenant improvements into the overall lease, will give us just about the time frame, 5 years, 6 years, that we can pay off all that. So I think we're trying to align all those elements, not just to address the sheriff's office needs, but also in coordination with the overall courthouse remodel. That's the introduction to the subject. If you have any questions on my introduction, I'll be more than happy to answer, but Sherry is gonna give us a perspective as to how we're gonna be addressing right now the connectivity to the town water location of the sheriff's office.
So we found out about the connectivity, well, we've always known about the connectivity problems to the Field Operations Bureau at Newmarket. There was no fiber ever going to that building, and so they put a satellite on top of the DOT building, and it beams the service over to the FOB. But it's always been very slow, and it's not very reliable. And if it goes down, then they lose their connectivity altogether. So introducing the body cams has increased the issues that they're having. So we've done some research. We worked with T-Mobile. T-Mobile is gonna bring a cellular connection. We hooked it up last Friday for a pilot to see if it would improve the speed at all, and it has. I've got charts and graphs that show that it's 100 times better than it was by bringing in that cellular connection from T-Mobile. But that is for download speeds. The problem that they're having is with their upload speeds, because they're trying to upload the video out of the DVRs in the sheriff's cars to the cloud. And that upload speeds are typically a lot slower in any connection than download speeds. So it will help. At $30 a month, we're gonna add the T-Mobile cellular connection, and we can potentially set it up so that the staff are using that connection versus using that satellite beaming connection. And that, because that has better upload speeds. So we've put an antenna out into the parking lot. There's one temporarily mounted right now, but we've got 2 outdoor antenna, 1 outdoor antenna / router, and 2 outdoor WAPs, wireless access points, on order that we're gonna install outside. And it's gotten up to 20 to 25 megabytes per second, which I know doesn't mean a lot, but it used to be a lot slower. So we also reviewed Starlink as an option, and we actually looked into that about a year ago, and it wasn't an option out there then. It is an option now. That one's much more expensive. It's $1,500 a month, and it has a data cap of 6 terabytes per month. So if we went over the 6 terabytes, it would be massively expensive. So we don't think that's a good solution for out there. But the speeds so far, they were 115 to 100 megabytes downloading and only 7 to 10 megabytes uploading. And then we put the antenna out there, and it's now about 100 times faster. It's not blazing fast, but it is definitely faster than it was.
You've put it out, but
It's-
what are you waiting for? You're waiting for
That's a
something.
short-term
We're testing
solution.
as a short term
Yeah.
until we can go through the process with the fiber optic.
Fiber.
We do think we're gonna continue to keep that cellular option out there at $30 a month, because as a backup, it's probably gonna be more reliable than the satellite dish beaming from DOT. Rumor has it DOT is gonna be moving out of that building that the satellite is on, and we'll lose the connectivity completely at that point, so.
So can you speak to if the short-term solution's working, why do we still need to go to fiber?
It's working, first of all, it's limping along working, so it's better than what we currently have. And second of all, once the fiber actually is out there, the speeds will be much more quick, faster, and more reliable.
Uploading,
What's that?
the uploading.
The upload
That-
speeds,
that's really
yeah.
the key.
That's where the big issue is with these video recordings in the DVRs in the patrol cars. They can't upload. It's a trickle, you know, and they don't make any progress, so.
Commissioner Mansur, do you have?
Well, I lost one of the connection points, so T-Mobile brings a cellular, I don't know what any of this means, by the way, so I'm just repeating the words you used. T-Mobile can bring a cellular connection that helps download but not upload, and then you said something about putting an antenna out. Is that-
Okay, so right now, the cellular connection is temporary. We did a 2-week pilot. So we will actually purchase the antenna for $800, and we'll be able to mount it outside after we verify this is the place we want to go. So T-Mobile said 2 weeks of pilot, and we won't charge you anything for it. But then if you choose to move forward, it's a $799 antenna that will mount outside, and will mount the external wireless access points outside as well. And so for $30 a month, we'll have some additional connectivity to that location.
But you had said previously that wasn't helping with upload, only download.
Right, so currently, until we get the fiber from Lumen actually down the road and to the building, we'll continue to use that satellite beam that's coming from the DOT building, and we'll focus that on the uploads. And that would, because that's much more, it's much faster for uploads.
But the risk on that is,
It's not awesome, but it's faster.
the risk on that is if DOT moves their
Okay.
offices
No,
out,
that was the missing
that
piece.
the antenna is gonna be gone as well.
I think that's all I got.
Okay. I'm not sure if Commissioners got a call from the sheriff in regards to this. And the immense issues they've been having in terms of the backlog that they currently have for uploads, and how that's really affecting the prosecutors and public defense. And the sheriff at one point was thinking of pulling the plug on the cameras just because of the connectivity issues and the backlog issues that it was creating, as well as the issues that the prosecutor and public defense were facing just because of their inability to upload all of this, all of the video information that they had. And one of the, in that conversation, right, I was like, well, can we do a very short-term solution? Something, if it's about connectivity, can we do something at the atrium where you have computer space and you can bring the cars, and can there just be that quick upload? But
Here, right?
yeah, I was just like, can we put a room,
To
just
explore that, yeah.
something quick, right? Just so we can, you know, do not pull the plug. Can we do something short term where we can work together and do something? And so I guess my feelings about it is he had a lot of frustration in regards to the fob location, and
The what location?
the fob location where
Field
they're at,
office.
the field office.
Oh, okay. I thought
Um,
it was a new piece of equipment.
No, the where they're at, and so I wanted to have this discussion, and I was hoping we could have this discussion as well with Sheriff Sanders and his leadership team, because I'm nervous about investing in all this fiber optics if, you know, the sheriff is just not, you know, there's just a lot of issues come up with the fob, and I want to have that discussion on, you know, what's going to be the immediate solution, what's going to be the short-term solution, what's going to be the long-term solution on this. And I think that needs to be a discussion with, you know, Sherry, with the sheriff. And I think we all need to be on that same page on how we're going to proceed. And because I want to hear from him that he is okay with staying at that, because from what I'd heard from him on that phone call is he wasn't. And so I just want to make sure that if he is okay with staying in that location for the next 5 years, then, you know, we can think about investing. You know, we're going to invest in the fiber optics and the evidence room as well, and move forward with that. If not, then I think we just need to have a conversation on like, okay, well then, what is going to be the next step? So I think we need to have that, pull back a little bit and have that conversation with him, and so I guess that's my request.
No, when you're done.
That's it, that's my request.
When you say DOT building, is that where the property disposal building is for?
I don't know which building that satellite's on. Honestly, I don't know. I know it beams it across the port, the airport. I know it beams it across the airport, and the reason they couldn't put the fiber in years ago, before my time, was because they couldn't dig up the road.
The road runways and stuff.
Right. And now they have a connection at the end of whatever that road is, but it's still a good half a mile to the actual building that they would have to dig to lay that fiber.
Have
So
they
we've
explored?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you might have you'll have a more intelligent question. You go ahead and then I'll follow you.
We've been working on this for about a year.
Yes.
Right. And the holdup, the most recent holdup and the escalation in cost was due to
Pocket gophers.
gopher habitat.
Yeah.
And
From where?
if gopher habitat in Tumwater,
Tumwater. So in Tumwater,
they don't have a mitigation plan.
In order to expand that building?
Yeah, because
The fiber.
Fiber.
To run the fiber.
Oh, just to run the
dig
fiber.
trench.
Yes, so we've been working with the company Lumen, who will be putting the fiber in, should the board approve. And we would have done it a year
months
ago.
Yeah.
If it weren't for the habitat. Well, with the habitat, we had to find a solution to the habitat mitigation. We had, or Lumen did, and their costs went up
3 times,
substantially.
yeah.
Triple the cost. It would have, how much is the current?
It's at 85,000 now, and that
85, yeah.
is with no issues.
And that had been, the amount had been within signature authority
Yeah.
of the department, and we would have gone ahead and done it, but it escalated to the point where not only did we not have the money in our budget, but the amendment needs board approval. And now there's apparently the issue, we have, fiber wouldn't be the only issue if the sheriff's not willing to stay in that building. We've got a lease extension coming up. So we need to know if the board's gonna be willing to sign a 5-year lease extension.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, let's have a conversation.
And, yeah, I should have a
This is
conversation
the first
with
I've
it.
been aware that there might not be
Yeah,
an agreement. I don't know where we'd put the sheriff.
and that's probably the conversation that I had with Sheriff last Thursday. And I don't wanna make an argument whether this location is right, wrong, or indifferent. I mean, he has his perspective, I respect that. From my point of view, is the time and the logistical elements. If the sheriff's office doesn't want to stay there, which I respect that, what options do we have? And it's really, the options that we have is to either wait until the public safety tax pass and how we're gonna be bonding that. Even that process is gonna take years to find out permanent location. If that fails, if he still doesn't want to remain in that location, it's gonna take us a long time to find a suitable location in the county. So for me, it's more the logistical elements and the challenges that we have. And in the meantime, if we don't provide fiber to this office, they will continue to have those issues, not just now, for the next 2-3 years, if not more, if we don't do anything. That is my concern. And that is probably what I relate to the sheriff last Thursday. But I respect that. I will probably bring the sheriff to have a conversation with the board. But again, my argument is not about whether this location is the best location or not. It's the logistical elements as to find a suitable location if this is not the right one.
Was there any review of, there's a state building right there, just a little ways away, I don't know what that, a couple hundred yards, say. And I don't know whose building it is, but it's a state building. And what about the potential of overhead rather than ditching? Can we do
The Port
overhead?
of Olympia won't allow poles. We've asked.
So there is no overhead in that area?
And if we have to dig down the road, because if we run into a house, a little nest of the gophers, then we have to switch to the road. And if we dig down the road, the port won't allow you to patch the road. They require that you repave the road. So some of the issues that we're running into are because of where the building is located.
Is there any chance that we're trying to put fiber optics throughout the county on this initiative, that the tribe is helping us with right now? Is there any reason we couldn't take some of the resources there and put it in, I mean, it's for the public good, use that resource to pay for this? Because it's fiber optics, it's upgrading.
Talking about ARPA funds?
No,
or
not necessarily ARPA. There's a lot of money going into this whole fiber optics upgrade throughout the country, throughout the United States.
That's
There's
the
money
only
available.
money that the county currently has is ARPA money for broadband. And those projects, you have to show the connection to private citizens and what the rates would be and the benefit to
So it's
communities.
for mainly targeted for underserved
Okay.
Yeah,
members of our
that's,
community. So this is, doesn't qualify.
Is
for it.
Certainly, we
broadband the
could
same as fiber optics? Is the concept kind of the same?
It's similar, but not exactly the same.
One way to get to broadband. We've got the agreement of the landlord to build it into the lease. I mean, that's gonna be the most cost-effective way to pay for it.
Well, I don't know what this is about. Wanna stay there, don't wanna stay there. I'm not up on that, but regardless, if we were to say today, well, we'll try to find you a different spot, it might take 5 years,
That's
to
kinda
get
where I'm
it done,
at.
so at some point,
Lease or buy.
yeah, I mean, either way we go on it, it ain't gonna happen overnight. I guess more to come. I don't know enough about it to ask intelligent questions, to be honest with you, so.
I just was gonna point out that, and it's not pointing any fingers or anything, but between the current sheriff and the former sheriff, I feel like I've been on a yo-yo a little bit with the Tumwater location. I mean, Sheriff Snaza was for it, then he was against it, then he didn't wanna be, we were trying to build a courthouse, he didn't wanna be part of that, cause he could get to the more parts of the county at that South Tumwater location and then against, I mean, it's been hard to, and I've never had any opinion about it. I've always been like, what do you need and how can I make it happen? And so it's been difficult to know what the long-term plan of the sheriff's office as an institution is and what their needs are and how we can help make them happen. But I'm open to hear the latest iteration of that.
Yeah, so I think we do need a conversation with the sheriff. I think, again, we need a immediate, short-term, long-term, and make that plan, whether it's at the FOB or not. I want to have it clear and concise and have everyone in the room and just have that conversation and move forward from there.
I will coordinate with the sheriff to come and have a conversation with the board at a later date.
And not an agenda setting, maybe at a separate work session or something, just
Oh, yeah, we gotta
agenda
have more than
setting,
10
yeah.
minutes.
It's all about their schedules.
Okay, thank you. Next is Black Lake Belmore Bridge project update.
Hasn't even
Just
started
because he
yet.
cleared his throat.
Like, why are we getting an update?
Okay,
Everything's going good.
my name is Matt Onsman. I'm Thurston County Engineer. Over my shoulder, yep, there he is Brian Meyer, Senior Civil Engineer in our design group. Wanted to provide you an update regarding the Black Lake Belmore Bridge Approach Project. As you know, this project is needed to stabilize the bridge approaches that have settled over the years and are creating a maintenance headache as well as a risk to the county. The Board of County Commissioners awarded a construction contract to Active Construction for $2.7 million back in June. Since then, ACI has notified us that they're having a tough time getting the timber piles. And it's not just a handful of piles, we need 500 piles to stabilize these bridge approaches. So they're exploring multiple options. The latest option includes getting some of the piles from Idaho, some of them from Oregon. I know it seems weird because we're here in Washington and there's trees everywhere, but it's not that simple. So the problem with not having the piles by this fall, there's a couple of problems with that. One, we've committed to the schools that the project would be completed prior to school beginning in September. Obviously, we're here the first day of August and we haven't started construction, so that's not gonna happen. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. The second thing is that we had scheduled an outage with the PSC gas main through the project for this summer so that we could do construction operations. And this shutdown can only occur in the summer months because that's when they're not using as much gas. In the winter, people need to keep their homes warm, so it's much more difficult to shut the gas down. So for these reasons, Public Works is going to reschedule the contract to begin next summer. So the work's still gonna begin, the project would be exactly the same, it just won't begin until next summer. While we're disappointed that we can't do the work this summer, having a contractor already on board, having all the piles at a yard nearby by then, it will allow us to have a much more predictable schedule. So the next time you hear me or hear about this project, I'll be coming back to request permission to close the road beginning the first day after school gets out next spring. Any questions?
Questions, Commissioner?
Well, I guess I'm curious, they do make steel pile, concrete pile, those are cost prohibitive or what?
It would be much more cost expensive, yes.
County managers, did you have comments?
Just curious in terms of the contract. We awarded the contract to the contractor.
Active
and,
construction,
So are they willing to wait for a year
yes,
and honor the low bid they provided?
yes.
Do we have that in writing?
We will be getting that in writing.
Got it.
So no cost
No cost
escalation, that
escalation.
would be,
Yeah.
that was my question. That's, good job.
Commissioner Mansur, questions?
Sorry.
Hurry up and wait.
Unfortunately, we're seeing this.
So much we can do, right? It's
There's not much we
supply-
can do.
Supply
You
chain
know what we
issues.
can do, we can use that airport material.
I knew
that
it
we
was
use in
coming.
the Army. It'll work.
Of the 500 piles, once they get sourced, where would they be staged? Would they be staged? Is there a laydown area?
The contractor would have to work that out. There's some adjacent nearby abandoned pits that could probably be used for that. So,
It doesn't matter that it gets wet or, you know,
The piles?
the
Yeah.
piles, no.
or that it goes through the different changing seasons. We're not gonna be here next year because we have to order new piles.
No.
We can only get piles of legacy forest.
You go there, Commissioner. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next is, are there any other commissioner items? Okay, so our next item is an executive session.
And let me see, where is, Charlie, are you coming?
Do you have the extension? I can call it back then.
3066.
301.
I'll go ahead and call the executive session.
Needs to join us too, Brandon Weber, so hopefully he's listening, he can join quick.
Brandon. Maria's on her way down.
Oh. Hey Brandy, we got it. Brandy?
Ready? I got it.
Okay, so I'll call the executive session for RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency, litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in official capacity is or is likely to become a party, personnel issues. This session will take approximately 20 minutes. Commissioner's action may follow. We're back from executive session. We were in executive session per RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in an official capacity is or is likely to become a party. Personnel issues. No commissioner's actions follows this action. It is 12:43 and we are adjourned. Thank you.